The transgender activist and former DC Comics Red Hood writer has doubled down on defaming and maligning Charlie Kirk after DC canceled the book for his comments, which they deemed were promoting violence or celebrating violence. Throw this up over at fandompulse.com. You can find the link in the description below. So following Kirk's assassination, this individual, who is a man who pretends to be a woman and uses the name Gretchen Felker-Martin, celebrated Kirk's assassination, writing, "Thoughts and prayers, you Nazi," and then obviously used that pejorative for a female dog. And in a subsequent post, added, "Hope the bullet's okay," after touching Charlie Kirk. Just absolutely disgusting, sick comments here from this individual. And after the comments, DC Comics canceled the Red Hood book, sending an email to retailers reading, "DC Comics cancels existing orders for Red Hood #2 and Red Hood #3 and any orders for future issues of the series. DC Comics will credit retailers for all invoiced copies of Red Hood #1, inclusive of copies that may have already been sold." In a statement to the left-wing Popverse, a spokesman for DC Comics said this, "At DC Comics, we place the highest value on our creators and community and affirm the right to peaceful individual expression of personal viewpoints. Posts or public comments that can be viewed as promoting hostility or violence are inconsistent with DC's standards of conduct." So I have massive questions about that statement, given the fact that this individual had clearly made comments like this before he was even hired to write this Red Hood book. Covered this in a previous article. He bragged that his claim to fame was being the transgender monster who killed J.K. Rowling. He posted this, "Can pretty safely state that Bin Laden and I did not agree on much, but blowing up the World Trade Center is probably the most principled and defensible thing he ever did." So he literally is saying that terrorism is okay. And then another one saying, "Kept seeing people Red Hood #1 for suicide, and for the life of me, I could not figure out why until I remembered it opens with a bunch of cops shooting themselves. I just don't really consider them people." So this is literally in the comic that he wrote that was approved of by DC Comics as well. I mean, it's just absolutely sick and disgusting stuff. There's another post where he wrote a story about envisioning J.K. Rowling being burned alive in her home. In another deleted post, he wrote, "Blood on Jesse Single's hands, blood on Helen Joyce's, Rowling's, every just asking questions journalist and fear-mongering turfs. You're scared for your children. They're killing ours." And then in a subsequent post, he said, "If they all had one throat, man," obviously implying he wanted to slit their throats. I mean, this is what this guy was doing before he was even hired for DC Comics. And DC Comics is saying that this is inconsistent with their standards of conduct. Why was this person even hired to begin with? Why was this person hired to begin with? Like, what is going on over at DC Comics? Why was this individual hired if it is inconsistent with your standards of conduct? Something is not adding up here. Not adding up at all. Anyways, speaking to the Comics Journal's Zach Rabaroff, Felker-Martin doubled down on his comments celebrating Kirk's death. He said this, "It just didn't strike me as an especially hot flashpoint. This is such a loathsome person. Everyone on the entire internet is talking about how pleasant it is that he got his." I mean, this is just absolutely sick, evil, wicked. And he's doubling down on the comments. I mean, just no room in polite society for an individual like this. I mean, truly wicked. This is the type of people that we are dealing with here. And this is not some kook on the left. This stuff is spreading. It is more widely accepted than you might believe. And we saw all of this kind of play out after Kirk's assassination, just how wicked a lot of these people truly are, and the beliefs that they have, that they are totally fine with this type of behavior and think it is actually justified. And in my opinion, this person is rationalizing, justifying his own wickedness by trying to celebrate Kirk's death and lying about him. lying about Kirk to justify and rationalize his own wickedness. Because he goes on and says, I saw that he had died in the middle of spreading more of the bigotry that he spent his every waking moment promulgating in a way that he had advocated for others to die, and felt nothing but contempt for his life. I mean, this is a man who I've watched for years go on television and on enormous stages and convention halls and say that me and everyone like me should be stoned to death. Again, just straight up lying, in my opinion, in order to rationalize, justify his own wickedness and evil. And I think this individual does, to some extent, understand how wicked and evil he is. I think he does understand this. And he's just trying to rationalize and justify it in his own mind. Anyways, he also confirmed that the book was canceled due to his comments about Kirk's assassination, with DC editor-in-chief Marie Javins calling him and informing him the story of the issue's release had gone from being celebratory to something that DC and Warner Brothers couldn't stand behind or defend. Again, this raises questions. Why were you even celebrating this comic if clearly it violated, if the contents of the comic literally violated your own standards of conduct, right? Why would you be celebrating it? What is going on at DC Comics here? Why was this individual hired in the first place? Lots of questions. Javins also explained that any kind of promotion of violence or harm is unacceptable to them. Felker-Martin then shared that he responded to Javins in DC saying, I said that I've listened to Charlie Kirk being an overt Nazi for years of my life, and I had no regrets for what I said about him. So just completely doubling down, saying he has no regrets. And it is a good thing that he was fired, but I think there needs to be a much stronger investigation done over at DC Comics, because I think this is something that has been institutionalized over there. I have been covering the comic book industry for almost a decade now, and this is not out of the ordinary. You can go and look at a lot of my previous work at Bounty into Comics, at That Park Place, and see that this stuff is not out of the ordinary. This was happening on a regular basis. Individuals like this being hired, not only talking about it outside of the workplace on social media, but literally putting it in their comics, as Felker-Martin literally admitted to with the right here with the Red Hood comic, and noting that he was including this propaganda about police officers because he just doesn't really consider that people. DC Comics published that. Why are they doing that? So lots to unpack here. If you're still buying DC Comics, you shouldn't. I recommend not buying them whatsoever. There are plenty of independent comics that are just as good, even better, that you can purchase rather than purchasing any of this new trash that DC Comics is making. Or if you are going to purchase anything from DC, go back and get some of the good stuff from the yesteryears, Chuck Dixon stuff, etc. But let me know what you guys make of this. I find this utterly repulsive. I think there are more threads here to pull, especially with the institutionalization of this ideology at DC Comics. And I think there's a lot of work to do to root it out. And I think it really is going to have to come with a lot of turnover. More people have to be removed from DC Comics in order for this institution to be saved and respectable again. But at this point right now, it is literally a vehicle for this sick, wicked, evil ideology and should never be supported. But again, let me know what you guys make of this. Let me know in the comments below. Remember to always be charitable, especially to each other, and to always, always speak the truth. And as Christ instructs us, we are called to pray for our enemies. So we should indeed pray for this individual. He is clearly has lots of problems, is inflicted by a ton of likely psychological and spiritual ailments. He needs a lot of help. And we can pray for him that he gets the help, that Christ softens his heart, and may he repent of the wickedness that he is currently engaging in. But at the same time, we must stand firm and reject and oppose the wickedness that he is currently advocating for.
Why would you be afraid of the people? Why are you not afraid of God instead of man?